Well, welcome to this first in a series of videos from the Project Academy to help leaders around the country, around the world, if you like, as well, to deal with leadership through COVID-19. And I deliberately picked those words, leadership, because that's so key to what we'll be discovering as we go through these videos, but also through COVID-19, on the basis that one of our roles as a leader is that hope that we will get through this. It's not about dealing with COVID-19, it's leading through COVID-19. And so, having coached hundreds of people and probably nearly 1,000 sessions now over the last 10 or so years, I thought I would start to distill many of those factors that come into play when I'm coaching leaders and how that might apply to the context of COVID-19. So this is a series of short videos. The aim is perhaps they're around 10 minutes or so a piece. And they're aimed to give you just some support and reflection during this difficult time. So maybe you just want to consider giving yourself a break amongst all this chaos that's occurring at the moment, for a few minutes each day. Take some time out for yourself, maybe use the videos as some point of reflection, a check-in point, and maybe even take a little bit of time just afterwards to take some reflection, because in each video I'm going to pose a few questions for your leadership that you might want to examine after each video. By all means, share these videos around, give people the links. I really don't mind who looks at them. Everybody can act as a leader during COVID-19, and therefore many of the things we'll discuss are applicable to team members as well as those leading teams. So I hope you enjoy this series of videos, and by all means just get in touch with me if you want to leave any messages about them. And so we're going to head into our first theme in just a moment. Okay, so welcome to our first topic area. Now this is going to be an area for us to reflect as leaders during COVID-19 as to a representation of what is actually happening, perhaps more almost on a psychological level, within ourselves and for our families and our team members and colleagues. And it's going to link to this concept of order and chaos. And this will be represented by this symbol that I'll come on to in a moment. Now, the reason why I think that the order and chaos reflection could be so powerful is that we're living in very, very uncertain times. And nobody knows the way out of COVID-19 right now. We're waiting for governments to lead us, of course, but our teams are also looking to us to lead them during this time as well. And actually, nobody really knows where this is going to end up. We haven't got full-on exit plans out of COVID-19, and you may have even heard the phraseology moving around. We're moving into some form of new order or a new normal. And so we're having to navigate very uncertain times. Now, we can choose how we wish to navigate those times in ways that bring around a more effective way of working as leaders, or a way that brings around more suffering and uncertainty to people around us. So, I'm going to have a little introduction here to the diagram. Now, this isn't a religious video in any way, but I've used in many of my coaching sessions with clients this symbol to help represent some of the challenges they're facing as leaders. You may have come across this before it's a Taoist symbol, and it's often referred to as a yin-yang symbol. But another way in which I found it really powerful is a representation of it, which is around the term of order and chaos. And so the white area of the symbol here represents order, and the black area of the symbol represents chaos. And then everything that can be perceived within our world is represented within the circle. And what it is suggesting to us is that everything moves in flux. Things are orderly, but then they go through a period of uncertainty or chaos. So if you think of Brexit last year, or over the last 2 or 3 years, Britain was very much in this area of chaos as it was trying to assimilate what will the world be for us from a Brexit perspective. And then around that came some certainty last year with the election and a clearer way forward. And so this newer area of white, being more order, was starting to emerge. And perhaps many of us thought, okay, we're in this period of certainty now, we're getting clarity going forward. But as these points highlight here, these sort of eyes, shall we say, in any period of what we might seem as relative order can emerge chaos. And so this is what COVID-19 has brought around for us. And so as this gets wider and wider, this black area, is the emergence of chaos into our worlds. And this is a thing as leaders right now we're needing to navigate, not only for ourselves and for our family, but for our team members as well. And so other aspects of the order chaos symbol here can represent things such as those things that are certain, or those things that are uncertain, things that are known, things that are unknown. All of those can be a representation of the light and dark areas. And so you may be thinking, well, what does this mean for me as a leader? Well, I think what it refers to here is that it is our role as a leader to be the eye of order in a world of uncertainty. So even though we may be finding things difficult right now for ourselves as leaders, we actually need to hold our nerve and look at the ways in which we can bring a relative sense of either order, certainty, or known elements around for our team. And a way in which I reflected on this a few days ago was in a coaching session with one of our leaders in one of the large government departments. And I was asking them about their reflections on COVID-19 for them. And they used this phrase, which I really like, which was, well, I'm living in a world right now of professional chaos. And that really had a little trigger for me about this. What do they mean by professional chaos? Well, my interpretation there is they're recognizing that the world that they're working in right now and for their teams is a form of chaos. There's uncertainty, there's things that they just don't know. But what my coachee was doing was acting from a leadership point of view of bringing around that professionalism to bring some order into the situation. And so if we're successful at that, what we'll be doing is starting to emerge with more and more order as we as leaders help and drive our teams through these periods of uncertainty. Now, one of the ways in which you can do this as a team and also as a leader is to consider what are the things that we know for certain and drive the conversations with your teams towards that, because this is perceptual. This circle here, you could have a representation of being the human mind. And so many people in your teams, particularly those that have a propensity to like orderliness, and we'll come back to personality traits in a future video, but some people who really thrive on orderliness can feel very uncomfortable if the world around them now has some chaos, uncertainty, or unknowns. So for many of your team members, and maybe even for yourself, your mind is offering lots of anxiety based around what is the unknown. So the way in which you could focus, for example, as a leader here, is to start setting your tasks for your teams that help them steady the ship, so to speak, and from their own psychological point of view, give them tasks that they can control, that are perhaps process-driven. And what you'll find is this will start to bring down anxiety levels. And I'll give an example of this here at the Project Academy. We're not immune, of course, to COVID-19 as a business. And so we've needed to reflect, what is it that we currently don't know? What's uncertain? What's chaotic? Now, one aspect for any business owner is cash. Any business needs cash to survive. Even if you're losing money, you still need cash. If your P&L is down, but you've got cash, you've got a chance of surviving. So one of the things that I did was spend half a day really getting my head around the figures for the business, looking at the inflows, the invoices, the income, what are our expenditures and liabilities, clearly taking the difference between those two and looking at the cash balances in the bank as well, and then doing some cash flow forecasting. Now, that was a half a day spent in a task that I could control. I could go through the income lines, the expenditure lines, the cash lines, the forecasting. Not only did that settle me down because I was now doing a task that was structured and therefore bringing around a sense of order for me, but also by gaining some responses and answers out of that, it settled me because I now moved from an unknown situation to a known situation. I knew exactly where the cash was. That helped to reduce anxiety. And so what I would offer there is for you to consider what are the tasks you could give yourself or your team members or even members of your family that help them move from this right-hand side of chaos and uncertainty over to some more order and certainty. Now, another way of considering within this symbol is around personal resilience. So if we think about the latest neuroscience and what that is tending to tell us about how our brains operate, is that at this time in COVID-19, we're dealing with a lot of anomaly, things that are not normal, these anomalies. And what neuroscience is starting to show us is that the right-hand side of the brain seems to be specialist around areas such as dealing with and processing anomaly. So this could actually be part of your creativity side of your brain. Now, the left-hand side tends to deal with things that are certain, repeatable tasks, the known. And so as we go about our daily businesses, for example, even when you're just making breakfast in the morning and maybe getting to work as we used to before COVID-19, those were things that had been processed by the left-hand side of the brain as orderly and predictable. And so you could potentially take a view of this symbol as being our left brain dealing with order, our right brain dealing with anomaly. Now, you might say, well, how's that going to help me? Well, a reflection here is that because we are dealing with so much uncertainty right now, the right-hand part of our brains are going to be going in overdrive, dealing with so many anomalous things, and that is going to be exhausting because we're using more coping behavior to process all of the uncertainty around us. Now, the neuroscience seems to suggest, and also on a psychological level, that what tends to happen at night when we go to sleep is that our right-hand sides of the brain have been processing the anomalies, and then it links up with the left-hand side of the brain to process and then store the more normal, predictable aspects. But the left-hand side mustn't be overwhelmed. If the left-hand side receives too much information as regard anomalies that need to be solved, then it can sort of get a little bit into a bad state. So what I would offer out of that is, from a resilience point of view, which we will be covering in later parts of this series, for your own personal resilience, this is why sleep is so important right now. I know it may be tempting as a leader to be staying up to 11, 12 o'clock at night on the computer. Well, I can tell you right now, if you're looking at a computer at 10 o'clock at night, you'll be disrupting your sleep. And so what I would offer here is to help your right brain process anomaly and get that information over to the left brain as part of its new patterns of behavior. Focus more on sleep. Are you getting 8 to 9 hours sleep a night? Are you switching off computer screens at, say, no later than 9 o'clock in the evening, so you've got a good chance of sleeping? Because it's as you sleep that the process can work between the left and right hemispheres. So as we close out on this video, what I'd offer is for you for some reflections. What are the things that you are uncertain about at the moment? And can you move the dialogue with your team more towards certainty? What are the things as a leader you haven't yet told your team that you know to be certain? Also, what tasks can you give your team members that will give them a sense of structure, a sense of process and certainty in themselves? And the last reflection, are you getting enough sleep? Because your right brain and left brain need to work together right now to process anomaly. So from a resilience point of view, have a consideration. How well are you treating yourself right now and ensuring you've got the best conditions for good sleep for your long-term resilience? Okay, so that ends our first video around order and chaos, and I'll see you in one of the next videos. Many thanks. To receive our full suite of COVID-19 leadership videos, or to get in touch about how we can help you build your capability in project and change leadership, then please follow the details on the screen. We'd love to hear from you.